Katie Fernaris. I am taking a speech class at Western Iowa Tech. I am also a student here at West High, as I'm sure all of you know. Today I am doing a persuasive speech on why we should abolish high-risk testing, such as the AP test. To begin with, I'm just going to ask you guys, I'm sure you've all taken them. Do you agree with high-risk testing, such as finals? Not something you guys like. Is there a reason why you don't like it?
I don't like it because it just brings a lot of anxiety for the student and a lot of studying from the beginning of the year to end.
Alright, is there a reason why you might not?
I feel like it's a lot of pressure and stress for one test, and it's a big part of our grade for it all to rely on one test.
Well, I agree with you guys. Also, there is the fact that I believe the standardized testing brings in a little bit of bias toward minority groups. It has the pressure involved, as you guys both said, and I don't necessarily believe that it always mirrors curriculum, for instance, the ITS testing. So today, that's basically what I'm going to talk about, and I hope you guys can all understand where I'm coming from, and maybe it changes your point of view. To begin with, I'm going to talk about my first point, which is the tests don't mirror the curriculum. I'm getting this argument from an article by Melissa Kelly called Arguments Against High Stakes Testing. Basically, what I mean is that if you are in a class such as math, which I'm sure all of you have been in, you might study and study throughout the year on different subjects, but then you get to the test and there's a lot of stuff you still haven't necessarily covered, or completely opposite stuff, such on the ACT. The ACT basically is a test, it's a college entrance exam based on basic knowledge of math. However, different schools have different curriculum. With this different curriculum brings problems because one school may teach more geometry-based stuff, which is a lot of what goes on to the ACT, while another one may be more algebra-based. Now the problem with that is that these algebra-based students aren't necessarily as skilled in geometry and therefore don't do as well in the ACT because it has such a large part of geometry. On my second point, the tests bring quite a bit of pressure. What I mean by this is you get ready all year for one test at the end of the year, a cumulative test of everything you know. Automatically you're going to be stressed out because the thoughts that come to mind might be, did I learn this? Am I ready for this test? What's on here that I don't already know? What's on here that I do know that I might have forgotten? Well, this stress can change a student's performance. It can keep them up later at night, and we all know that sleep deprivation doesn't help anybody on tests. It can also make just the basic atmosphere of testing much more stressful and make you somewhat forget what you might have already known. I got that argument from R. Justin Smith from Do Final Exams Help or Hinder the Education Process? Then, in a short history of high stakes testing by Sharon L. Nichols and David C. Berlinger, my third point comes to mind. Standardized testing is biased. The reason that I say standardized testing is biased is because, as I mentioned before, different schools teach different curriculum. Well, the problem is that schools with less money or less resources tend to have the minorities as well as the more impoverished people. So these impoverished students and minority students aren't doing as well as on their standardized testing as, say, the average white, high to middle class student. Now that's not fair to them because it's not necessarily based on their mere intelligence or their aptitude to be able to take such a test, but it's based on what their school taught them. Altogether, these three points make it difficult to prove validity as well as reliability in the test. What I mean by that is validity is if the test could be repeated and get the same results. Well, the test could be repeated, yes, and get similar results, but with different questions, as in, for instance, the math section, changing from geometry-based questions to more algebra-based, which is more what the SAT is, could completely change a student's score on the math section. Also, reliability, as I said, it's not necessarily fair, so you can't be comparing two different students getting two completely different educations and say that it's completely fair and equal and they all have equal opportunities. Basically what I'm saying is I don't believe that they're fair. I believe that they provide added stress, and I also believe that they're not necessarily following a fair method curriculum-wise as well as, bias due to financial reasons. Our opponents of my viewpoint say that finals are more helpful because the material from the first weeks and months needs to be remembered and covered again, and which I believe is true. I do believe that is true, but I don't necessarily believe one test on one day needs to sum that up. What I'm saying is I believe there are other ways to do that, such as more tests throughout the year that all together make a cumulative score, or maybe just every week having a refresher on old stuff as compared to just at the end of the year piling it all up and making one large test. So to sum up, I think that standardized testing is unfair, and I think it needs to be released from our school system because I do not believe it's helping the students if it's a test that does not mirror everyone's curriculum fairly, if it's a test that provides so much pressure that it affects the way a student will perform on the test, or if it's a test that's biased against different minorities or different class levels, so to speak, or things such as that. So I hope you guys now see my point of view and maybe keep that in mind. Thank you for your time.